Hey everybody, welcome to TraiLive Season 2, Episode 3. This is a super exciting episode because it's our first real TraiLive. I know it's called TraiLive, but we haven't been live. And for those of you who have been watching TraiLive, you'll probably notice that we haven't done a show in a while. We did a bunch earlier this season, and we kind of realized that there was kind of a bit of a repetitiveness, I guess, about kind of doing race recaps and kind of the stuff that Iron Far's doing. So we've kind of decided, rather than do that, we're going to do live shows every so often as soon as we have really engaging, like, visual content, you know, race recaps, films like this. And yeah, we're hoping that that'll get a little more of a different perspective that we haven't been seeing recently. Today is super exciting because we are working on a new film. It's called In One Day with Ivan Zinn. He's a New York ultra runner, and we met Ivan a while back, and he shared his footage with us from last year's race. You know, it was kind of just shot with his crew. You know, not the most professional quality, but we looked at the story and we really felt that there was a lot of emotion and kind of a lot of drama. And as you saw this past weekend at Western States, it's not always the people that win the race that you know, create the most excitement. And I think that this story is really telling as well. Yeah, we've been working on this film for a few months. We are going to have Ivan Zinn on the show right afterwards to do some questions, and I'll answer some questions as well. Use the live chat room to, you know, comment. This is, as I said, an early version, so there are some, you know, rough corners here and there. We've got some mixing to do, some other music licensing issues. Some of the songs might change, but other than that, hope you enjoy the film. What else do we need to say about it? Oh, 2 weeks from today, Rob Carr will be on the show. Cameron back here behind the camera has been sweating bullets for 3 days straight. I think that's about it. Just go ahead and enjoy this preview. It's a 28-minute film, and just support. Oh, the other thing is, if you do pre-order the film or order the film in general, proceeds from this will go to support the Western States Trail preservation. So good cause. Also helps keep films like this coming out. So let us know your thoughts. And obviously the film won't be released for about a month or so. So if there's any major notes or ideas you have that we can improve on it, here's your chance to get some of your ideas into the film. Any other notes? I think that's about it. We'll come right back afterwards, and we'll chat about it, but hopefully you enjoy the project here.
Why do you want to run 100 miles, Ivan?
To see if I can. Just to, you know, test the limits of endurance and my endurance and my body.
I'm Ivan Zinn. I'm 40 years old. I live and work in New York City. I started and run an investment management firm, a little bit more than 30 people and $1.5 billion under management, and I'm an ultra runner. I run a lot in Central Park. I think I've been to every nook and cranny and, you know, unpaved, paved trail, you know, every section. But it's as big as it is for New York City. It's a pretty small place when you're talking about running, you know, 6 or 20 miles for that matter.
I'm Kim Zinn, I'm Ivan's wife. When we met each other, he had just discovered trail running, and it happened to be, and sort of we fell in love and he fell in love with that at the same time, so I'm able to understand it to that extent.
first 100-mile race was Massanutten. I ran about 27 hours. Wanted to do better in the next 100 I ran because I'd never run 100 miles. I didn't know what was going to happen after 50, so found that at about 80 miles my IT band starts to really hurt. I don't know the exact time I heard about Western States. I'm sure it was close to when I started running, and so it was always on the list to do, and so I applied and beat the odds and got in. Always had that in mind as a goal, is to run sub 24. In general, the symmetry of running 100 miles in 24 hours is kind of a symbolic thing in and of itself, and being able to do it at Western States is even more special.
Oh, this is the ultimate race for the sport. It's the race that if I could only do one race a year, it'd be the one that I would choose.
It's the Super Bowl of ultras. Ever since I started this sport, it's that one race that you hear of.
It just is kind of the most iconic race, and it has almost this just energy and draw about it. It was the first 100, and there's so many people here, and it's hard to get into.
I've kind of run all the facets of running. I ran track in college, and then I ran the roads for a while, and I took a long break. And ultra, I wish I found it earlier. It's a beautiful sport and beautiful people.
It's something that I've tried to understand as the wife of an ultra runner for a long time, because the why of it is hard to get at if you're not the one doing it.
So I got into the race in December and decided that it was my second 100 and I wanted to try to do a better job. I wanted to try to get under 24 hours. Probably going to require some painful stretches. I'm going to have a lot of support out there. My dad and stepmom are coming out. I have two good friends from college. They're going to join me, as well as my sister. Those three are going to pace me.
Working the logistics.
Oh, you got to.
What time do we need to leave here?
5 on the safe side, 5:30.
My mother-in-law and father-in-law are coming out to help with my daughter.
What do you think? Daddy awesome?
Sounds very awesome. Did you say awesome?
Goals for the race are to run under 24 hours. That's going to be the target on my mind the whole day.
A little crazy, but his attitude and drive to get it done is kind of impressive. So you can't really stop him once he gets something in his mind.
Getting those drop bags set?
Yeah, getting all set.
We are in total awe. He's a little insane, but we're here to cheer him on.
He's always looking for a challenge and has never rested at any plateaus.
I didn't see that.
Wrong way.
389 is the bib.
I'm basically signing away my life here to support Ivan.
We love you, Dada. Love you. You say I love you, Dada. Whoa.
Love you.
My race started like everyone's at 5 a.m. and I felt pretty good that morning. I wasn't tired. I'd gotten a reasonable amount of sleep.
Not very. Oh yeah, they do have one.
Yeah, they just did it.
How you feeling this morning, Ivan?
I felt good.
There you go, Ivan.
I'll see you guys up there.
All right, bud.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
My goal is really just to run nice and slow and steady for the first 50 miles or more.
Just imitating Henry V. Again, I'm going to say, yeah, once more, your countrymen into the breach.
Yeah, that's good.
And so I started nice and slow. I had a nice run up the escarpment. It's beautiful.
It's unreal. It's unbelievably scenic. You climb up to the escarpment. The sun was rising, and there's this alpenglow on the mountains.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed that. We are waiting for Ivan to log on currently, but just wanted to see if there was any questions here in the chat room. Billy Yang missed the beginning. That's the only question I have so far. Whoa. What was this? Okay, so Sean says, I'd like to see a director's cut with the trail video. The bits we see are so different from Unbreakable. The leaps are running, and this is just so much more understandable for the rest of us. The first 5 miles are a great example. Not much of a question, but that is a good comment. Not sure where Ivan is, but hoping. Oh yeah, he's coming. There's a little bit of a delay on the video, so. Oh, well, while I'm waiting, I was told that the audio cut out right when I was saying that we are going to have Rob Krar and some of the other Western States 2015 runners on the show on July 15th. That's 2 weeks from today, 5:30, same time. And we'll actually have a little bit of an edit from this year's race as well, so make sure you go and check that out. Anyone else have any questions? Oh. It brought back good memories for somebody. That's great, too. Anyway, like I said earlier, this is kind of a different perspective on the films that we've done in the past. We found the footage essentially and then kind of added our own footage to it, took some music, and basically just tried to create an emotional story. What? Somebody's calling. Oh, here he is. Ivan, where are you, buddy? Now I'm getting a ring. This is really technically embarrassing here. I'm not sure what's going on. Where are you, Ivan? There he is. Oh, shoot. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, if there's any other questions here, fantastic. Thanks. Oh, do I have any other future projects in the works? Yeah, we're actually flying out to Hard Rock next week. We filmed the Hard Rock 100 last year with a 12-man crew. We're trying to piece together a story. We got a lot of really good footage with Killian last year, but just wanted to... Oh, Ivan, where are you, man? But we just wanted to go back this year and kind of fill in some of the gaps, hoping to get some footage of Anna as she goes for her attempt out there. We're also working on a women's ultra running documentary that we've been working on for a few years, and there we go, end of their call.
Hard Rock 100 last
Oh,
year.
there he is. Okay, cool.
Trying to piece together a story. We've got a
So
lot of
Ivan, the
really
man, just barely under 24 hours. Super nail biter, I guess, just like this weekend's film. Ivan, tell us a little bit about how this whole deal came together. What inspired like Jay to just like kind of document this whole thing? Jay's his pacer and the guy that kind of filmed the whole deal.
Yeah, Jay. Well, Jay is. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'll turn it up here. Yeah. So Jay is runs among other things, does a charity fundraiser for the MS down in Orange County. Every year he runs a large organization that does that, so he puts together a video. So he thought it'd be a good idea to bring his video camera along and just try to get as much footage as possible. And so he took a lot of footage, and we didn't think much would come from it. He offered to put it together, kind of make something from it, but we realized at the end he had something because it was such a dramatic finish. We decided to do something a little bit more with it.
We got a question here from Jay, who was wondering how cold it was during the interview. As you could see, your teeth were chattering on some of the shots.
It was a very cold day in the winter here. So
Yeah.
maybe sit on a rock, which didn't help either in my shorts.
S. Walden was wondering how many miles you ran each week leading up to the race and what percentage of them were on trails.
Yeah. So I decided I got a coach for, and worked with Ian Sharman in leading up to Western States, because I'd really done kind of a self-directed program for the Massanutten, the last 100 I'd done. And so Ian had me on a reasonably rigorous schedule, probably more rigorous than I would have done myself. And probably ultimately was running max probably 70, a little more than 70 miles a week in the peak weeks, call it 4 weeks out, and then tapering kind of up and down from there. But max was about 70 plus miles a week. No 100 miles a week. And a lot of those, unfortunately, during the winter were, almost all the miles during the week would be indoors or on the treadmill rather. So, unfortunately, probably half treadmill.
Two questions kind of similar. People are kind of wondering what trails you're training on, and Rob Ricardo was wondering what your favorite trail in the NYC area was. He lives there as well.
Oh yeah. So I did most of my trail running out up in Bear Mountain, and some in kind of the long path that's just across the GW Bridge, where you could do some kind of extended downhill and uphill repeats where you could they were slightly more runnable, a little bit more like the Western States trails. So the problem with Bear Mountain is it's really rigorous and a lot of rocks and kind of East Coast terrain, roots, etc. Not very good for running, good for hiking. So tried to find some things that are a little bit more runnable. But my favorite trails are definitely out and around Bear Mountain and the Harriman State Park out there.
And Matt Wilson was wondering how Massanutten compared to Western States in terms of difficulty.
Yeah, Massanutten was harder. The terrain is much harder. There's very little, call it, runnable in the same way that Western States was. And fortunately, when I ran Massanutten that year, it was great weather, so it wasn't that hot, it wasn't that cold, it didn't rain. But it was harder in that respect. And the one thing I would say, Massanutten was a lot less pressure. Maybe it was less pressure because it was my first 100, but it's a very much more low-key race in the scheme of things. And Western States is still low-key relative to a road marathon, but there was not a lot of people yelling at me to get out of the aid station in Massanutten because I wasn't going to make my kind of cutoff, if you will. Whereas Western States, I was halfway through the day, people are telling me that I'm on pace or not on pace for 24 hours. So different type of environments, but obviously great in each of their respective ways. But as far as footing and terrain, and I would sign up for and run Western States before I'd run Massanutten again, just from a pure running perspective.
And a good question here for anyone that runs: how many toenails do you have on average?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate. I'm pretty fortunate. I don't lose toenails very frequently. I've lost a couple, but I was after Western States. I took a picture of my feet, and they were clearly very dusty and dirty. But I did not have a blister or an obvious toenail loss. I ended up losing 2 toenails from it, but it wasn't obvious at the time. So I felt very lucky with respect to toenails and feet at Western States in particular.
Jeff wants to know if you're going to be doing Badwater 135 next.
No, Badwater. Badwater has a little less appeal to me in terms of just going out and really running on pavement for 135 miles, having to run on the white line in order to make sure your shoes don't melt. But, it's tempting in the sense that it's a challenge, but I'd rather try to get into hard rock than I would try to get into Badwater.
So Jimmy B was saying, did you get into Western on a single ticket? I think a lot of people wonder that, just because they wonder what the odds are.
Yeah, so I got in on 2 tickets, and I think it was about a 10.5%, 11% chance of getting in that year. And it was really pretty fortunate because I I still had a ticket from the prior year that after Massanutten, and I just went and ran a 50-mile race out not too far from New York City, out in middle of Pennsylvania, to kind of have another ticket. I wasn't all that excited about running the race, but it was ended up being a fine race. But I kind of got in almost. I felt very fortunate because I don't know that I had plans to do another 100-mile race, and they obviously changed the entry requirements, so you have to really run 100K at least in order to get an entry or to get an application or a ticket rather.
Another question here from the chat room. S. Walden again. So you did a lot of your training indoors. Is that true? Did you train indoors or?
Yeah, sadly.
Okay,
a lot
so
of
what was your longest indoor run during your with the winter? Because I know it was a pretty brutal winter that year that you guys were training for that.
The last 2 winters here haven't been particularly good for outside training. So longest runs on treadmills are a little bit more than 20 miles. Basically, I a couple of years ago, training for, I think, Massanutten was the first time I kind of found a certain zen in running on a treadmill. Requires change of clothes and requires as much stimulation as possible with TV and headphones and everything going on. But I've figured out if you have enough stimulation going, then you can make yourself run a couple hours on a treadmill. But it's painful. It's good for hills though. You can certainly get plenty of hills that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam Condit was wondering if there's any particular really low points. I know that in general you were kind of just fighting the cutoffs all day long, and was there anything that really stood out as like a extremely low point?
Yeah, I think the low points were, which was interesting because I, after I left Forest Hill, I felt really pretty good going down most of Cal Street. And I was joking with my friend Sean running there, referencing everyone's favorite Unbreakable movie, how good I felt there, and was really passing a lot of people and running what felt very hard, and then got to probably the end of the downhill on Cal Street and just kind of bottomed out. I don't know if it was lack of calories or what happened, but that was a particularly low point. I remember getting across, kind of going through the river and getting across, and my body was just kind of unhappy in general. Was really cold, and the water was cold, but it was not cold.
Was that Kim going behind you?
Oh yeah, Kim's here. So if you have any questions for the wives of ultra runners, you can post her on a question.
Viva is probably already sleeping, so we're probably keeping her up.
Yeah, Viva's definitely sleeping by now. So that was one definitely low point. And then the other low point was really with Jay, where it was just kind of battling fatigue at that point. And everyone talks about being able to run kind of the last 20 miles after the river, and in terms of where people make or break it, whether you're an elite or a middle of the pack, or if you're a 70-year-old woman, apparently.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I didn't run a lot that section. Some woman passed me going up Green Gate and said, basically something like, you have 5 hours to get in. Basically, don't be such a sissy. And she was jogging by me, and I certainly did not feel that good. So I'd say the low points are in any of these 100-mile races. It seems like right when the sun goes down, when it really gets dark, because you're basically kind of getting ready to run through the whole night, and then the sun went down, the energy of the sun, and then at some point your body just starts to have some issues in the middle of the night. So those are really the two low points, kind of before Brown's Bar, and before Rucky Chucky were the two main low points there.
Matt Wilson was wondering if you did it all in one pair of shoes. I think that's what was stated in the film, but
yeah, I had 2 pairs ready. I had a pair of kind of a well-worn pair of Hokas and a slightly much newer, I should say, pair of Hokas. I switched at Forest Hill into the newer pair, and I ran about 10 steps, and I decided that was going to be a horrible idea and I literally went back, put on the other shoes, and then had no problems. I think I was just, they were really dusty. I was coughing, as you could see in the movie. At Forest Hill, there was just a ton of dust in the canyon, so I was thinking I should switch my shoes, but it didn't end up really wanting to switch into something that was going to maybe tear up my feet in a different way.
And maybe one more question here. Great work, Ivan. What sources of inspiration did you draw from to stay focused and positive during your training? It's from Josh Lasky.
Yeah, it was. I think the goal of in the special element of Western states was one thing to draw from, where you knew you might not ever get to run it again. You want to train and do as well as possible, and during that opportunity. And so a lot of my training, getting up and going to run it when it was 5 a.m. on a Saturday and it was snowy outside, and driving up in the mountains felt like a horrible idea at the time. But the real inspiration there was the opportunity to run Western states and feel like that was something that I may never get to do again, and I needed to make up for kind of everything I could from it. So that was the real main source of inspiration, other than the obvious of wanting to go out there and enjoy running and be one with the trail, and the kind of just general zen of being able to be out and enjoying a trail run.
Well, super inspirational story, and thanks so much for sharing it with us and your footage, because I don't know, I think it's really heartfelt and something that we probably wouldn't have captured otherwise. So thanks again, Ivan.
Yeah.
And
well,
just a reminder yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks for putting it all together. We Jay had some great footage, but we knew that we needed some professionals involved to help us turn it into something that actually was more kind of special, and again got it was really dramatic. It felt dramatic at the time until it got tremendously upstaged this year by Monson's finish. So my friend Sean joked. My friend Sean joked that you were already working on the 1 1/4 days movie. With her.
That's next year's film.
Exactly.
So anyway, thanks everybody. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to build a bit of a following there. We've been doing this for 10 years. We only have 2,000 subscribers. Come on, click the button. Anyway, and make sure you pre-order the film. Supports Western States Trail Preservation. And 2 weeks from today, 5:30, July 15th, Rob Carr and a Western States recap. So make sure we see you there next time on TraiLive.